Wax is melted in a wax pot, which is then poured into plaster forms. The wax looks like chocolate, but does not taste like chocolate. The plaster forms have been soaked in water so that the hot wax will not stick to them. The wax is allowed to cool and congeal before the excess is poured back into the pot. This form contains jelly beans. This form contains pyramids. You can see that the wax is starting to skin up a little bit. Now the excess is poured back into the pot. The forms are placed back into water to cool down and shrink away from the plaster forms. Excess wax is poured into the pot to keep the forms hollow and reduce the amount of wax used. Something magical is about to happen here. Watch carefully. The wax will shrink away from the plaster. Magic. Apparently one of them does not want to release. We shall help it out. What's wrong with you? Why won't you come out? Help it. There you go. Isn't that nice? The wax can then be poured in again and again and again, and multiple forms can be made very rapidly. So how many did I say I was going to make? Oh, I'm an idiot. Now we shall make the form using the parts. Care must be taken in removing excess flashing from the form. Fortunately, this X-Acto blade is very dull. The parting lines on the form are then cleaned up carefully. The pyramidal forms are cut down to fit the jelly beans. Care is taken not to cut oneself with the X-Acto blade. The pyramidal corners are attached to the jelly bean. And then a hot tool, which has been heated in an alcohol flame, is used to weld the two wax forms together. In order to make the warts, zits, and carbuncles which are on the form, a small drop of wax is applied and allowed to congeal. Then a hot needle tool is pressed into the middle of the drop, and with a quick flick of the wrist, a thing is produced. Here we see a speeded up version, production line of the carbuncle formations. Warts, zits, and the carbuncles are put on with both the hot tool and the needle tool. Various carbuncles are made hollow. We next must create a wax tree that will allow the metal to enter into the form. This is a lost wax process. A gate and runner is being applied to the wax form. These extruded red waxes are commercially available. The large sprue is placed onto the pouring cup with a hot knife. Once the wax tree is completed, vents are installed. Vents are required to allow air to escape from the investment mold. The investment will be contained within the coffee can in the background. We are now going to apply the investment. Here you see the pouring cup, the pouring sprue, gates and runners that go to the wax pieces, and then vents. Once the investment is in place, it will be upside down and the wax removed to create our investment form with the coffee cup. We now cover the form with the investment material, which is two-thirds silica and 1/3 plaster by weight. A clay dam is placed around the bottom of the can. The remainder of the investment is added. The reason that we brushed the forms was to keep bubbles to a minimum. We now shake the investment to remove any further bubbles, and then pour the remaining investment up to the top of the can. Once the investment mold has cured, we steam it to remove all of the wax. As you can see, steam produces a very clean mold. Now we come to the fun part of the fun part. In the furnace is molten bronze at approximately 2100 degrees Fahrenheit. Myself and my student aid assistant use shank to remove the crucible. The crucible is not radioactive. It merely looks that way because of the camera. Molten bronze is then poured into the investment molds, which, as you recall, has had the wax removed from it. Excess bronze is removed once it has cooled down. The investment is now placed into water, which will boil a significant portion of it away. Ta-da! This is the raw form after it comes out. It is not shiny in any way. It has to be removed with a cutting reel and a right angle grinder from the metal tree. Once removed, the investment is brushed off and then further sandblasted in a sandblasting booth. The cutoff knobs are removed with the abrasive belt, and then the piece is polished on a wire wheel. Start to finish.